Okay, so we all know Taylor Swift, right? The music icon, the person who breaks records for fun. But what if I told you her real genius isn't just in the music, it's actually in her mindset? Her entire career is like a masterclass in the psychology of success, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today, the secrets behind the phenomenon.
So just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about, let's start with a number. Over $1 billion. I mean, that's a figure that tells you this is way, way bigger than just a few hit songs.
And it's not just about the money, right? It's also the critical acclaim. 14 Grammy Awards. You don't get that by accident. That's a clear pattern of excellence, and it's recognized at the absolute highest level.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth does a teenage dreamer become this global force? It's easy to just chalk it up to talent or luck, but the real story? It's so much more strategic. It's way more intentional than you might think.
The truth is, her rise has been fueled by a really specific mindset, and we can actually break it down into 5 core psychological secrets. And these aren't just ideas. These are the actual strategies that turn raw talent into a global empire.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to dive into her mastery of storytelling, how she forges those unbreakable bonds with her fans, her fearless reinvention, that insane work ethic, and finally, how she shakes off all the noise.
Okay, let's jump in. Secret number 1, mastering the art of storytelling. And I mean, her ability to tell a story is almost supernatural. From day one, she wasn't just writing songs about her feelings. Nope, she was building entire worlds that you, the listener, could literally step right into.
And this quote from her really shows you how deliberate this whole process is. She says she gets a specific emotion and then thinks, what story can I tell with this? That's such a powerful formula, right? It's how she turns something deeply personal into an experience that feels universal to millions.
So there's a psychological term for this, and it's called narrative transportation. It's basically that feeling when you get so lost in a story, in one of her songs, that your brain isn't just hearing lyrics anymore. It's actually forming this deep emotional connection. You feel seen because her story suddenly feels like your story.
And you want proof this works? Look no further than the charts. All Too Well, the 10-minute version, that is an eternity in pop music. And yet, it became the longest song in history to hit #1 on the charts. How? Because this story is just so compelling, you literally cannot turn it off.
And that incredible storytelling, it leads us right into secret number 2, forging unbreakable fan bonds. This is about turning casual listeners into a deeply loyal community. I mean, Taylor Swift doesn't just have a fan base. She has a global family, the Swifties.
The psychology behind this is fascinating. It's a principle called emotional contagion. Basically, when she's so open and vulnerable in her music, it's like she's holding up a mirror to her fans. It triggers this massive wave of empathy and creates a sense of loyalty that is just unshakable.
And look, this isn't just some clever marketing tactic. She actually walks the walk. There's this great story from when she was a kid, where LeAnn Rimes recognized her from fan mail, and that totally shaped her whole approach. We're talking about hosting secret sessions for fans in her own home, memorizing details about them from social media, sending out Swiftmas gifts with handwritten letters. She makes that connection feel so incredibly real.
And the real-world impact of that bond? It's huge. Back in 2018, she made a single post on Instagram encouraging people to vote. The result? A spike of 65,000 new voter registrations in 24 hours. That's not just influence, folks. That is a deep, deep level of trust.
All right, that brings us to secret number 3, the power of reinvention. Think about it. So many artists find a sound that works, and they stick with it for their entire career. Not Taylor. She's made a career out of absolutely demolishing expectations and completely rebuilding herself with every single album.
I mean, her evolution is just stunning. She started as this country sweetheart with her debut album. Then, boom, she's the fairy tale pop rock star with Fearless. Then a total pop explosion with 1989. Then she goes dark and electronic with Reputation. And just when you think you have her figured out, she pivots to indie folk with Folklore. Every single era is its own distinct, fully realized world.
So what's driving all this change? Well, this quote she gave says it all. "I'm intimidated by the fear of being average." It's not about chasing trends. It's about pushing back against mediocrity. That fear of just being average is the rocket fuel for her constant evolution.
And there's a perfect psychological term for this. It's what Stanford professor Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset. It's his core belief that your talents and abilities aren't set in stone. For Taylor, a new genre isn't a scary risk. It's just a new challenge, another mountain to climb and master.
Okay, on to secret number 4, the grind behind the glitter. This is what's really underneath all the success, all the reinvention. It's an absolutely relentless, non-stop work ethic. All that glitter is built on a foundation of pure, unadulterated grit.
I absolutely love this quote from her documentary because it's so honest. I'm only here because I work hard and I'm nice to people. She knows that talent alone doesn't get you anywhere. She boils it all down to 2 things: working your tail off and being a good person. It's such a simple formula, but so incredibly powerful.
And the evidence is just everywhere. Look at the Eras tour. We're talking 149 shows, each one over 3 hours long and incredibly physically demanding. She even performed through a crazy heat wave in Rio, where it hit 59 degrees Celsius. That's 138 Fahrenheit. That's not just being professional. That is a mind-blowing display of resilience and pure dedication.
This is a textbook example of a psychological concept called deliberate practice. The idea is that true experts aren't just born, they're made. It's not about just putting in the hours. It's about focused, passionate, intentional effort repeated over and over again for decades.
And that brings us to our final secret, number 5, shaking off the noise. Can you imagine living under that kind of microscope? In an industry just swimming in criticism and negativity, she has somehow developed this powerful mental filter that lets her tune it all out and focus on what actually matters.
And this right here, this is her mantra. When the world comes at her with scrutiny, with drama, with criticism, what does she do? She doesn't get into Twitter wars. She retreats and she creates. She lets the art, the work, be her ultimate answer.
The psychological tool she's using is something called cognitive reframing. It's a mental technique where you take a negative situation, all the criticism, all the hate, and you consciously change your perspective. You reframe it. It's no longer an attack, it's creative fuel. And that's exactly how public drama gets transformed into massive, blockbuster albums like Reputation and Midnights. Okay, so let's recap. We've got mastering storytelling, forging fan bonds, fearless reinvention, the grind behind the glitter, and shaking off the noise. But what's the one thing, the one golden thread that weaves all 5 of these secrets together? It really comes down to one powerful idea: individuality.
There's actually a psychological theory that backs this up perfectly. It's called self-determination theory. And the core idea is that for humans to really thrive, we need autonomy. That's the freedom to own your own path, to make your own choices, and to do it unapologetically. If that doesn't describe Taylor Swift's career, I don't know what does.
And I just want to leave you with this one quote from Taylor that I think wraps this all up perfectly. If you're lucky enough to be different, don't ever change. Her success was never about trying to fit into some pre-made mold. It's always been about owning and celebrating exactly what makes her different.
So really, the big takeaway here isn't that you should try to be more like Taylor Swift. It's that you should try to be more like you. And that brings me to a final question I want you to think about. What's one unique thing about you, something that makes you different, that you are going to lean into this week? Because your own era is waiting.